Hello, this is Max Drake. I want to talk to you about accessing recent files. Now, I'm just going to use a little hot script here. So Control plus Windows key plus A. If I do all of those three together, it comes up with this title, open a file. So we're going to go and select a file, and I just zip into here and go down again. And I can select any old file type right there and go open. And it'll come up with the title block, and I'll say test CLI file for whatever, and I go OK. So I've just written something through there. Now I can actually come into into Excel and import that file. Now, if I just import that file, what it is a list of files that I've selected and given a note or a description to. So these ones here, they've got a path. If you see off to the side there, Control W, I just do the highlighter. There's file paths all through there, and I've got a note or a description through there and a date attached to it. So I can insert a hyperlink with this. So now that I've inserted a hyperlink, if I actually click on one, something like a text file there, it will now open up that file inside a text file. So I don't actually have to go to that path to actually open up the file. And there's that actual file that I've got opened up into the file that I have. So I wanted this because I pick up and put down projects, and then I can't remember which particular file I've got. So I ended up finding that I'm opening up 3 or 4 files in a project before I can actually just get started, and I found it quite frustrating. So I wanted something where I could actually just keep some notes on things that I do. So I set some objectives. I said it needs to store a list of files that I could refer back to later. On clicking on a particular file in the list, it'll open up the file and the program it relates to. And if the program's not active, it'll activate that program. It'll be easy to access and use, so that I'd use it frequently. So it has to be something that you can quickly grab a file name and chuck it into somewhere quite quickly. It has a date, so you can sort in reverse order, so that you can suddenly say, well, I worked on it about 2 weeks ago, so here's the day's date. I can work back from there. And it has a note description field, so that I can describe what's important about that file. Why did I keep it? And it might be that it's in a particular phase of a project, or I put something down. I've given the client 3 design options, and it's a design 2 is in a particular file, and they may be named similarly, but I might have worked on them at different times, one 3 weeks ago, one 2 weeks ago, or something like that. So I want to pop back to the relevant one that actually makes some sense. And I wanted something that had a good search facility, so you can filter by the type and the date, maybe even project, or maybe my priority. You can actually put big priorities between things. And it needs to be quite fast in operation. Now, of all the things that I've got, I can now filter this by dates. So if you look at the dates down here, they'll just reverse. So they're doing it in reverse. And what that's doing is it's just selecting 100 rows down, and it's actually just saying sort by latest. Or I can actually filter by the extension by typing on it. Now, this could be a pull down list, but you might end up with an extension that you can't even think of. But if I just use an example here, a PDF, so it will actually only filter and show the PDF files. Now, again, as I said, I could filter it by project. You most probably couldn't filter it by note description unless you were doing a search on what the description is. So the only relevant ones that I need is that I need the note description, I need something to do the extension. I can just kill those filters at that point in time, and it comes back to that. But I can quickly, easily find the file that I want and give it a click on it. Now, over time, I may need more descriptors through here. But one of the things, when I started to code this, it brought up a couple of questions that I just want to highlight through here. Now, this is this productivity process conundrum. Do I change my methods to a different, more efficient filing system so that I don't actually have to do this, and how much time is it going to take so that I actually have to rebuild how I actually do that. So go and do some research on the most efficient ways of filing things, etc., and then do that. So, or do I actually write a script, or do I adapt some tools that work in with my workflow? In this particular case, I'm reasonably happy. I did question myself on this, and I suddenly thought, no, I've worked with about 50 different companies with lots of different file structures and things like that, and mine is no worse or no better than anybody else's as far as that. And naming conventions as well, I tend to try and maybe in such put too much information in the file line, because that's where that's the only place I can access. So this is where I wanted to add some more information, because I didn't want extra long file names on things either. And then another question which I asked, I said, which is a more general one, is what process do you automate? And it's something that you have a bit of a pain point, and it's a tedious thing, and it's a lot of repetition in it, that you can automate it. You might not be able to automate all of it, but as long as you kind of take a little bit of a hassle out, you can maybe do part of it, and that would be good. The third question which I actually had on here, and I can't actually remember that one now, so I'll actually have to come back to it. There are some scripts here of the early versions that I've done of the Excel macros, of the actual file that it writes to, and also of the auto hotkey script file. I don't think it has numbers at the front of it. So I suddenly thought, well, I'm not the first person to actually do this. You know, how have other people done it in the past? So if you actually look at Explorer, and you see with this, you can actually add columns to your thing. So I can add a column, say comments. So I can add a column called comments there. And so if there's some comments attached to that, so in the metadata of that file, if there's one called comments, you could most probably add some information there. But you see, none of these files actually have that metadata comments. Now, if you think of an MP3 file, an MP3 file has the person who actually created the music, the album, and the file length or something like that. If you think of a photo image, it will tell you what camera did it, what f-stop you had it on, what ASA or DIN number was the thing on it, and maybe so, but what f-stop or what AS. Anyway, there's a whole load of other metadata that you can actually have with certain file types. And to actually create, if you wanted to do something on a lot of files, you can use this thing called a desktop ini within Windows, that you can do that. Apparently they put a lot more effort into it in versions of Windows 7 and Windows 8, but they sort of dropped it in Windows 10 apparently. But you can write your own desktop ini with some coding in there. I don't know whether it's .NET or whatever, but it will then be able to show those information through there. So certain files do and certain files don't. And also, if you put that comments into that, those comments, you've got to still go down into that directory to file the file to find out what the comment in, and it could be a little bit tedious trying to write that information in there. Another thing that you can do inside Windows, if we just go onto the desktop, is that you can do a link. And if I hover over that link, you can see it comes up with the comments. So again, if you had shortcut links to certain files that you want, so every time you want to save a file, you save a shortcut to that file and hold it in a folder where you have all your shortcuts, and then you could filter by all of those shortcuts. And then inside those shortcuts, if you hover over them, or you could even inside your Explorer have your comments field shown, so that if there are any comments in there, you can show them. So this one's saying some other information in the comments fields that you can find through there. It didn't seem to work because it seemed to be, I didn't really want to work with the shortcuts. I just wanted a simple thing that I just wrote a file and that's where it came through and something like that. The next way that I looked at it, I suddenly thought, well, I wanted a link. So if we just look at a basic file and just look at an HTTP link, what we're actually doing is, this is the link that we're doing, but this is what we display. So we see visit 3C schools, and it takes us to that obscure place wherever that browser is. You can do that with files as well, and that's what we're doing inside here with the hyperlink through here. So we click on that hyperlink and it just takes us. So we don't need to know what all the path is. We just say, just take us to that file. That's the one I actually want. What I actually found is that so you can't do it in a .text format, but you can do it in a format called RTF, which is rich text format, RTF type files. Now, Word uses RTF.files, emails use an RTF.file. So when you actually write an email with an RTF thing in it, you can't activate it. But when you actually have sent that email, that suddenly becomes actionable. So you can do that. So I suddenly thought, well, okay, then you can do it with the Excel. But when I actually just tried writing inside, and I tried using WordPad instead of Word, because I thought WordPad, a bit like Notepad, it opens so much faster because it's a much smaller program. So I wanted something quick and efficient. But I didn't actually get that because, in fact, when I actually converted that, you can see what the code is for it. If we just come up to that one there. Oh, come on. Oh, it's starting to get difficult with me again. So if we actually look at this RTF file, this is a link, from here. So from this part here through, this is a link to a website. And it has a hyperlink, and it actually has an address through there. The hyperlinks tend to work, but whenever I did it for a file, actually this one here is an actual file, what I actually got was all of this gibberish coming through here as well. So that didn't work. So I actually found when I looked to try to get the RTF file for getting a link, it wouldn't do it. So it wouldn't do it in WordPad. And then when I thought about it, I suddenly thought I'd actually have a whole lot of links and a whole lot of files, but I wouldn't be able to filter them inside a document like that in Word, or unless it was actually in a table, and maybe you could do a sort in the table. So I thought, no, Excel was a better vehicle. Then I actually thought, well, why not do a hyper? Why not use HTML? So you can actually, so I wrote a file. So here's a file that I'm going to. So this is calling up a file. So if you actually want to go and get a file on your computer, this is opening up an HTML file, but it has a file and then 3 forward slashes. Now in this one, I've got the link. So it's gone through, and because it's an HTML file, it will read it inside your browser. But if I click on this link file, which is a text file in my computer, what it's showing me is it's reading it in raw inside there. So if that was an actual program file, of a .dwg for a CAD file or something, it wouldn't open up that. It would actually just show you a whole lot of gibberish. It would be reading the information in that file, but it wouldn't be activating that file. So it would be opening the right program that would actually encrypt or decrypt or whatever to actually activate those things to do. So it can read a file on a server, but it can't read one. They've actually protected it so that you can't read from your browser a file on your own computer, and it's to stop somebody corrupting your computer by opening up a link and it destroying the thing. So opening up and suddenly writing a whole lot of things to your own file. So it's protected from doing that. So then what that then meant is that I couldn't use Excel online, and I couldn't use Google Sheets online, because Google Sheets works online. So if I was sending all those files, but I don't keep my files on a server, I keep my files on a PC. So that was an avenue. So this is why I've ended up with these two peculiarities. The next thing that I actually just want to highlight here is when we look at these links and we look at the top here, the actual formula is equals hyperlink, so that's it, and then open and close brackets, and then F7 is the mark, so that's where it's got to go to, and the G7 is what text you actually want to do, so the blue text that you actually see in these lists through here. Now, because I want to open that text file that I've written to from Auto Hotkey script, which is it's written in text format. Although I want to open it in a Excel, so instead of a .txt file, it's a .csv, so it's comma separated file. So therefore, every time it sees a comma, it moves whatever's after that comma into the next cell. So that formula, if I tried running that formula inside Auto Hotkey script, it would actually, if I opened it up, it would only give me half the formula, so the formula wouldn't work inside Excel. So that's why I'm actually inserting my hyperlinks inside of Excel. And to a certain extent, it's a formula inside Excel. So why not do Excel things? Because I'm doing other things in Excel. I'm doing my filtering, and I'm doing my sorting and everything inside Excel anyway. So why not just chuck your hyperlinks through there? Now, another thing with this is if I delete some of this information through here, so I'm just going to delete some lines there, and then I import that file in again, you'll find that I have a copy of that information inside of Excel. So therefore deleting it doesn't delete the original file. My data is still in that basic original file in that format. So if I've got a dead link, so I suddenly realize that I've got a link to an image or something, and I've now deleted that image or moved it to a different location so the link doesn't work, I need to delete that. So I've actually got another one, which is a Control Windows and S, that opens up a particular file. And what at this point in time, what I can actually do is look in here and suddenly saying, oh, well, it's number 15 on here. So I can actually just go into my text editor file there and just go number 15, delete, and it's taken that one there out. And it doesn't matter that, in fact, it's messed up the sequence or anything like that. So now when I open up that in Excel and I just go and delete all of that and I import that again, you'll find that line number 15 is now not in there anymore because it's been deleted. So 14 and 16 there. So I could do a little thing here which would suddenly come up with a pop-up box and suddenly say, or a hot script, so you can actually say line number which starts with a certain number, go and delete that and do that. That would be an additional thing through there. Again, I can add other things through here. Another thing that I've got through here just from this macro. Now this one, the macro set up in this sheet I'd actually got from a different project that I was actually using, and this one here I've just reused these or repurposed them so that they're doing these sorts of filtering and stuff, and I can copy all of the information. So if I'd actually I've got my stuff through there, I've got an extension and suddenly said only show me the PDF ones, I can copy only those PDF ones across to a new sheet, and then I can copy and save that to a different file completely if I wanted. But that was just gimmicky stuff in the other the reason why I set this up in the first place. But it does have that capacity to actually do those things there, and this is one where I'd copied some information across to another sheet such that I can actually just deal with that particular bit of information on its own, so I don't need to be distracted by other things as well. So looking at this process, so that's one of the things that confused me a bit when I was going in and doing this, is when I was just coming back to, so the files are such you can actually access, and there's got files to download, and it's a link to my Google Drive, and you can pull down the Excel file, the other ones there. Normally, if I'm starting a project, I go and look and see somebody must have done something similar to this. And when I did this, I actually found all of the different ways that I was exploring it, it wasn't really working very well. And I actually haven't found anybody who's doing this, and I'm surprised I'm not. I've actually found some that use a database and stuff like that, but I didn't really want to kick off a big database in the background and stuff like that. I just wanted something that you can put into a text file, and I've got a file macro one. And that was just another little point that I just want to make at this point in time. To write the macros and things like that in the first place, or to write the auto hotkey script, easy. It's all free. The one thing with this, I'm a little bit, because I'm always kind of saying that productivity for free or free productivity tools. This one here, you do need a licensed copy of Excel, because if you're trying to use something like Excel Online or a free copy of Excel, they don't actually let you do any of the macros. So you've got to have macro enabled to make these buttons all work. So again, it's sort of like if you're just going for all the free stuff, and I would have preferred to be able to do it in something like Google Sheets, just and use their GAS programming and the JavaScript programming in the background for that, instead of using the VBA through here. And that actually knocked me out a bit, because I find coding now, I'm sort of more familiar with all the hotkey scripts now, and I'm finding that's an easier to code in, and I found switching into VBA was quite difficult. So in the end, I actually just saved my previous. I was trying to bring across the codes from one whole load of workbooks and bring the macros across onto another workbook, and they were faulting out and there's all sorts of errors. So in the end, I actually just saved my previous workbook and then just remapped these ones to actually supercell through here. So it's a kind of proof of concept, but I can actually see it being a very useful tool. I think I've got to do a couple of other things to make it a little bit easier to work. The Control S to come and edit through here, and maybe I should have something that I can actually say the line number, and I can delete a line number, or I can delete a line number, or I can edit a night number. Because another thing might be is that I've got a link to a particular file, and suddenly I've gone back and worked on it, but now, so I've got a different note that I've attached. I've updated that file, so I could just re-grab the link and have it as a later thing and do it at that point in time. But then I've got a few more, so I'm actually just making the file a lot greater that I can do. Or the other thing is as well, you can actually just strip out a lot of the old dud ones that you've got as they become, then you're suddenly thinking, well, I'm not working on those projects, so everything after 3 weeks ago, I'll clean out apart from one or two files that I still find quite useful. And I do find inside, like I only really need this part here. I need the notes. So in some ways I can actually move the extensions further over, or I can move them at the front, so I can actually have a bit of a dashboard of information at the front. I can reduce that column for the, I don't really need a time. I think it's adequate enough if I just have a date. I had the dates in reverse order so that I could order it better, but since I've got a number at the front now, I don't need to do that either. And the numbers are very good as a quick reference to suddenly saying, well, it's line number 21 is the one that I don't want anymore. I can just go and delete that. It's not. I'm not using that as much as I was, or what I was expecting to do. So I don't know how you work, or how your file structure is, or how you jump between projects and things like that. One of the things in Explorer is that you can set it up so that you actually have a folder, and then you actually have got recent files that you've opened, so you can actually have that in several programs, so if you're just working in. But because I'm jumping between a whole lot of different programs and stuff like that, and jumping into different parts of codes and stuff, I actually find I'd have the file here rather than, I was actually finding when I was going back into Excel, into looking through File Explorer, I was getting very, very confused with a whole lot of stuff. And also I was using a program that was had different revisions, and it wasn't backward compatible. So I actually had to make sure I was either in the last version, or the version before, or a version after, and then either you could update but you couldn't save back to the previous version, so you had to be careful of where you actually had the files. So that was causing a little bit of confusion as well. So you could actually put a versioning issue on something like that. Like for code files, you could actually just head them up to GitHub and actually have your versions and the things here. But this is the thing with this is that it's not a version control. Now, the other thing that I just wanted to touch a point with you, I don't know if you've got, is if I click on this one here, and I've got this file type, what I can do is associate that file type, and you see at the top it says open with Adobe Acrobat. Now I could open that same file with Adobe Reader or Firefox or Google or Microsoft things, or I've also got another PDF reader through there. If you click to the very bottom, choose another app, and let's see if it comes up, you can say always use this app to open PDF files. So I can suddenly say always use Firefox to open up my PDF files. As it is, I've got the one that I've assigned to it. But what that means is that if I've got a Word document through there, so this is a .txt type file, I can actually say with that, open with, choose another app, and you'll find that there's several. Like I can actually open that up with VS Code, I could open it up with WordPad, I could open it up with Windows, I could look for other programs and stuff like that, or I can open it up with normal Notepad. But I'm saying anytime you see a text file, open it up with Notepad++. So some of the files you can assign what you actually have of a preferred program to open files up and do that. So that's what I was going to do with the RTF ones, and actually have WordPad open them up, because it would have been a faster thing to use than opening up in Word. So from my initial goals of what I actually had in this article, which was to do all of the things, all of the points, I think I've met all of the points that I needed, apart from it needs to be quite a fast operation, is that I actually have to open up Excel. And Excel can, two things with Excel: one, it does take up resources, and two, memory resources, and two, it can be a bit slow in starting up, so you'd almost have to have it open up at the beginning so that that's there ready to use straight away. So that's my one thing that I'm a little bit disappointed with. Now, as I said, it still seems daft to me that I haven't come across other things doing all of these without using databases and stuff like that. So maybe something pops up and I end up actually having to travel this, or maybe I will adapt that. So if people want to put down in comments and somebody saying, take this further and maybe actually have a project field for it, or a pull down list. The other thing as well, when I actually open up that, when it opens up to select a file, it only opens up in a particular directory. I think it's opening up in downloads. But you could actually have a pull down list of certain preferred. So actually that's a good example there. So control thing A, it's always opening up in downloads. Now I could end up with a pull down list and suddenly saying, which folder do you want to go and open up in? So I might have a projects folder where I've got a lot of things, but I don't really bother with that, because I use quick access hotkey to actually suddenly jump me to wherever I want to be. But it might be a useful thing to actually have popular project folders that you go to all the time, of where you generally keep your files, like projects or Word files or things or something like that. I keep my accounts files somewhere for my business. I keep a lot of my project files inside there and stuff. And inside each project folder, I actually have a whole lot of different ones, like every time I issue and things. So if you had a pull down list, you could actually just quickly do the things instead of doing a quick drill down as to where you were doing. Like this issues ones, I've got a massive amount of issues that I've done on this particular project, as I have in other ones. A lot of them were like, in a lot of project folders, I'll have photos and things, and that would be an extremely good one for that, because I might be designing something and I need to quick looking at photos. I can actually link 4 or 5 photos that give me the best overall views that I can quickly go and link to, or something like that, or even a 3D panorama or something. So a useful tool. I actually haven't compiled this, so this is still just an auto hotkey script at this point in time, and the number of lines in it are reasonably, that's the length of the file that's writing the script. And I ended up with this new ini one just because I was using it to actually count +1 to give a new file name onto the thing, just to make sure I got an ascending order of files. So if I delete 1, 2, 7 and 15 or something like that, as long as they're in ascending order as you write the file, it doesn't matter. And again, if we just look at that file in an editor, you'll see it's all on one line, is all of the strings through there, and it's easy just to come down and find the ones that you actually want and go and delete or add. And it's doing it from the it's adding the new ones at the bottom here. So it's always adding at the bottom. That's why you've got to do the reverse switch to look at the latest, because obviously, you don't want to look at the very last ones. You want to look at the latest ones rather than that. So that's where Excel's good at doing that reverse flip or something like that. You could do that in a file where you actually just take the latest data and re-loop it and put them back to front, and copy them across from the bottom to the top and do a reverse copy. So there are methods and things you can do it, but I'm not happy about the 2 programs that I've got to use. Maybe I'll find something else that will do. But anyway, I hope that's been of interest to you. If you found it useful, please give a thumbs up. If not, never mind. It might just be a little bit enlightening anyway. Thank you very much for watching.